Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Fake Nerds Watch for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I am Brandon T. McClure. With me, as always, is Ryan Eliopoulos.
Hello, it's me.
The Spock
hands, up as always.
The Spock hands have come out.
Woo, 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 woo.
And Sparkz Witty.
Yes. I am here as well.
It's the Queen.
You're doing the Queen wave, but for Spock. I'm pretty sure that's racist, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, it's me. She loves Star Trek.
We're here to talk about Star Trek. What'd you say?
I said in the grave because she's dead.
All right, we're here to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 6. This episode is called Lost in Translation, directed by Dan Liu. Sorry.
Okay.
Put the I in the wrong place.
Sure.
With written by Onitra Johnsons and David Reed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is an Uhura-centric episode. What do we think about this one, guys?
I liked it. I think it's pretty good. Not my favorite. Most of it, I think it's pretty good. I like the Uhura stuff centric of it. I really, really like, and then everything else around it, I like. This isn't my favorite. It was a good episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, Sparkz.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. I think like the majority of it is Uhura, and I think that's all really, really excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a very good, like, what was going on the whole time episode.
Yes.
So, like, the reveal of what was happening and how it was translating for her, I thought was all very, very well done.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with that. I this is kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, Strange New Worlds is just consistently good for the most part. And this is just one of those consistently good episodes. I think it's well written. I think it's well directed. This has the return of Lieutenant Kirk. He's making his kind of full appearance as the real Lieutenant Kirk for once.
I was gonna say this has the true debut of Kirk.
It's me. I'm here.
We saw him on a pad at the end of Tomorrow, but now we are seeing him fully presented. He has arrived on the Enterprise. And I will say that this is my favorite Paul Wesley as Jim Kirk. This is kind of where it has finally solidified for me. Like I see Kirk now.
I agree.
Right, and like much to his credit, he has been playing not Kirk, not traditional Kirk up to this point. He's been playing alternate versions. So like, yeah.
Right, and that's kind of the thing where I was like, I've been waiting for this because like there's always been this thing, and you're absolutely right, Spark. He's always been playing this alternate version of Kirk, and I was always like, I'm not giving him a fair shake. I recognize that he's just not doing it for me yet. But now that I see Lieutenant Kirk, I'm like, okay, I see it now. I'm jiving with this Kirk. I'm interested. You know who actually I was thinking about this while watching this episode, and actually the last episode, which is the one where Spock is human, charades. I was thinking that the actor who plays Sam Kirk would actually make a really good Jim Kirk. Because he's got this thing when he's being attacked by Spock where he does like the Kirk meme hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? If they wanted to switch this, I would have been really happy with that too.
That'll be the next episode.
What's really funny about that is that I don't know how much of Sam Kirk there is to know, but like the first time we meet Sam Kirk, I'm sure I've told Sparkz this already, but it is William Shatner with a mustache. Just a dead, like he's pretending. We meet Sam Kirk after he has died, and he turns it over, and it's William Shatner with a mustache. And I always thought it would be funny if the actor who plays Sam Kirk also played Jim Kirk, but without a mustache.
Yeah, I feel like if you do that in a full Strange New Worlds thing, you have to acknowledge that they're twins.
That's
like
true,
it works for a like small moment, but not continuous acting against each other appearances.
Yeah.
Sam is so jealous in this. Oh my god,
he's so jelly belly.
He's so jealous.
I'm really happy to have Sam back as a character. Anytime you could get the Kirk brothers together, I'm actually really excited about that because like we've never seen this before. This is completely new territory for Star Trek. Even the Kelvin films never did it. So I'm really happy. I really like the the Kirk stuff, and I really like the Uhura stuff. Actually, I might actually really like this episode more than I thought I did. Actually, you know what? I think this is a pretty good episode.
Go for it.
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of it really works.
Yeah.
I like, because we're talking about Kirk, I will say that I think it's really cool that Star Trek can now have this moment where people can look and be like, that's when Kirk met Spock. Like, that's neat.
Yeah.
The handshake that shocked the world. I remember watching that when this dropped, and I was like, and I was, it's this cute moment where like Kirk is looking at his boyfriend from across the room, and he's like, your friend over there needs to protect his queen, and now he's in trouble, and it's a funny chess thing. And I was like, I wonder if that's just what they're gonna do. They're not gonna do the meeting, and like, no, they're just like, hey, I'm Spock, hey, I'm Kirk, and then like, yeah,
that's the team, really right cool. There. Look at that.
And ending the episode with them 3 at a table was pretty tight, and like, it didn't feel
forced.
No, it felt very natural, and I feel like it does, like they met before you see them on the original series. I think it's totally cool that they're just filling out the camaraderie of when it began. Yeah. And I think it's really cool that this is how Kirk and Uhura's friendship started.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like. So, okay. Actually, we're going to pivot a little bit. So last season we lost Hemmer, Bruce Horak, as Hemmer. And it's really sad. He's a wonderful character. And that entire episode, the fallout of that episode had like the whole staff saying, oh, Bruce Horak's coming back in the next season, though. Don't worry. And I really, when I saw Zombie Hemmer, I was like, that's really funny if that's what you guys meant.
I think it might be, because that's really good. I definitely, when you first see Zombie Hemmer, you're like, what direction are we going here?
Yeah.
Is this real? Is this imaginary? Is this microbial demons? What's going on here? Star Trek can be anything. And I love it. I love the central premise of this episode. Like, this type of Star Trek episode is my favorite type, where there's like, it's just a natural life form that like we can't do anything about. Like, we can't. My favorite, Brandon, you watch Next Generation. My favorite Next Generation episode, it's in seasons 1 or 2. It's about this giant crystal that lives in space. It's just a giant crystal, and anything gets near it dies. And it's just there's nothing you can do about it. But it's not that creature's fault. It just gets to exist. And Starfleet kind of wants to destroy it, and Picard's like, we cannot. It's a living being. Just put it somewhere else. Just don't fly near it. And like, that's the right answer, because like, you can't just kill a thing for existing. And I'm like, that's what this episode's kind of about, right? Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. But the crystalline entity is the one you're talking about. It's in league with Lore, Data's evil brother. So it is.
Is that in that
not
episode?
Quite. Yeah, it's not quite exact. It's not quite the same, because that thing is still evil. But yeah, it's.
Oh, like, I don't remember that part. It's been like 10 years.
It is an entity that has destroyed Lore's entire colony and killed like the Soong family.
But surely, like, but you're right, saying has happened in Star Trek.
Yeah.
No, but you're absolutely right. Like, there is the sense of like, this is an entity that we're not familiar with. It is not life as we know it. And there's examples throughout all of Star Trek. I told you guys about an episode of Star Trek Discovery season 2, to kind of use a more modern reference that you guys will not get, but there's a giant sphere that looks like it's attacking the Discovery, only to them realize it's actually trying to communicate with them, and the technology is so far advanced they can't perceive the communication.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on outside. I apologize. Good. When he, and so it's kind of the same thing here, where this species that is, again, not life as we know it, is able to communicate, but can't communicate in ways that we are familiar with. And even Uhura says it, like, this is kind of how the universal translator works. It finds similarities in all language and meaning, to find a close approximation to what the other person is hearing. And so I really like that kind of. I really like how that's handled. Is kind of what I'm trying to get at. Is that I think this is a pretty good way to really do a classic Star Trek theme. I mean, hell,
Yeah.
the original series fought a giant amoeba. Like,
Yeah.
so
I
they
mean,
can
you
do
get
whatever
to
they
it.
want.
Yeah.
Speaking of like Hemmer, when we first see him, like we're hearing his audio, but we're seeing just his back in the video profile thing, and then you get the zombie stuff, and I'm like, that's cool that they got like him back to do a voiceover for someone else being in the makeup and the body and everything. And then he's actually talking to her in the video later, and I was like, oh no, they actually got him.
And he shows up at the end and he winks out of existence.
Yeah, winks out. Yeah.
I really like, so I always remember this story. I don't know how true this story is, but I had one of the people behind Transformers the movie, the first one from the 86, talk about the decision to kill Optimus Prime.
Sure.
Spoilers for a movie that's 40 years old. Longer. So he's like, they got letters, right? They got letters like, how dare you kill Optimus Prime? My son is upset. Kids were upset. One person, he was reiterating this letter, is like, one person his son was so inconsolable that he's like, you have to bring back Optimus Prime. My son won't come out of his room until Optimus Prime is back. And the guys told us, like, I didn't have the heart to tell him that we did plan to bring Optimus Prime back, but as a zombie. And so like I remembered, for whatever reason, seeing Zombie Hemmer like triggered that memory, and I was like, this is kind of like that. Like, oh, don't worry, Hemmer's coming back as a zombie.
Right.
That was fun.
Yeah.
When we first meet Pike, he's very insistent. It's a temporary promotion.
Fleet captain.
To fleet captain, because he's got 4 ships under his command now to kind of get this refinery, deuterium refinery, operational. Space gas. There's been some problems with this refinery, and they're trying to get it up and running. But I remember when, so there's a two-pronged story here, which is one that when we first saw the trailers for this season, and we saw the new insignia on Pike's chest. And he said, and we were like, oh my God, is he being promoted to fleet captain already? Because we know that his promotion to fleet captain directly precedes his accident, which puts him in the chair. And so everyone's kind of like, oh shit, are we getting close? Are we getting close to losing Pike?
Soon.
Well, you know, Sparkz, the accident that happens to Pike.
Yes, I'm just saying, like fleet captain don't mean shit to me. Like, it's
right. Fleet captain just means
death, which we know is coming. That's all the context you need.
Yeah.
Fleet captain is just it just means that you're in command of multiple ships.
Yeah.
It's not quite a promotion. It's just like, we're putting you in charge of a bunch of ships.
It's a promotion, but you don't get a raise.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. You're not an admiral yet. You're a fleet captain. It's very TOS, honestly. But so we were like all really scared. And then the temporary thing is really funny, because when we first meet Pike in the menagerie, which is the 2-part episode that brings Pike back, and he has the scar and he's had the accident already. Kirk in that episode was asked, have you ever met Captain Pike? And he said, I met him once when he was promoted to fleet captain. So, which I think is really funny that they were like, for this episode, we need to make Pike a fleet captain temporarily so that we don't ruin canon.
Cute.
That is cute.
That was fun. Yeah, anyway.
Which also means if we're going to see any more of actual traditional Kirk, Pike can't be there.
Yeah, well, I mean, they could, that from now on, they could just be like, yeah, he's shown up every now and then. Because they didn't say, I guess they said, I only met him once.
Yeah.
They can fudge that. Again, this is the thing, like Strange New Worlds, I think Strange New Worlds can sometimes play with canon in a very fun way. Like this fleet captain thing, I think is very funny, and kind of clever. But Strange New Worlds is also not the Gorn are in Strange New Worlds, and the first contact with the Gorn doesn't happen for 5 more years. So like they can bend. I call it bending canon. As long as you're not breaking canon, I think Strange New Worlds is very good at bending canon, and bending canon is perfectly okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm sure we'll see more traditional Kirk. I just doubt Pike will be present for it.
Yeah, it's probably.
He'll be in the
but
next
this-
spin-off show.
But this episode is primarily focused on Celia Rose Gooding, who I think is incredible. I think she's really good. They are non-binary, I believe. They are really, really good in this episode.
Yeah. The communicating through their flashbacks, like their own, like Uhura's flashbacks, is such an interesting idea, and it also gives you insight into Uhura, like if you don't know anything about her. Also, I don't know how much this is like, being new to this show.
I think the whole parents being killed in a shuttle accident, we heard about it in the first season. I think this is new for Strange New Worlds.
Okay.
I don't think this was in the original series.
It's pretty brutal that they make her like walk through her parents' shuttle crash.
And it's such a good performance.
It is, and she's like go past it because she has to get to communicate with whatever's communicating with her. And again, it's like these like ethereal beings that live in gas. Like how do you communicate with that? Like that is like trying to communicate that into a television show like this. Like it's one why Star Trek is so cool, but like doing it this way, it makes sense. And using the passing of a friend through Hemmer is cool. And then like again, it's a very simple visual storytelling of you see decrepit him, and then when the mission's solved, you see a good version of him and he disappears. That's like almost again like almost like the fantasy Star Trek elements. And I'm like, all that stuff I really love.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see at the end when she's kind of piecing it together how Uhura looks at this and looks at all the visions that she's had and sees and like puts it together that this is this is why I saw this. This is why I saw that. They feel trapped. They are being attacked by Starfleet, which is why they had me be attacked. And they destroyed the Ramon destroyed the nacelles because the Bussard collectors refined the deuterium. I really liked the piecing it together moment.
Yeah,
it's a shame that Ramon seemed to figure it out, and yet we had to lose him anyway.
Yeah, he was a casualty.
Yeah. Well, because they talk about how the language centers in his brain were so overactivated that he just could no longer speak.
He was fried. Right.
Yeah. His brain was fried, but he knew that this was going to help, that this would send a message or help, and he had no other way to communicate it.
Yep.
It's really tragic in a way.
Yeah.
Classic red shirt.
There's I forget her name, but Carol Kane's engineer character.
Pelia.
Pelia and Una, they have like a small sub scene. It was fine. They were having fun.
3 technically.
The banter is fine, but it's all like in this big like warehouse looking place, and I'm just like, oh, this is a scene that had to happen because the show needs to be an hour. And like it was fine. I was like kind of waiting for the Uhura stuff to come back.
Carol Kane, Pelia specifically, not Carol Kane, but Pelia is picking fights in this episode a little bit.
Yeah.
She walks up to Uhura. Why don't you like me? Walks up to Una. Why don't you like me?
Yeah.
I do like. I think the Uhura, the Una subplot is a little undercooked. I'll agree with you on that one, but I do appreciate it because we are tackling with the idea that Pelia has replaced Hemmer.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for the crew to kind of get over that. That's why Uhura has the moment and Una pretends that, she's sloppy. She's this. She's that. She gave me a C. But it's the fact that she lost Hemmer and she's not. Yeah. And she's not comfortable with this other person coming on board and being that replacement. I do like the idea of the scene. Real quick, I do like the idea of the scene.
Before you respond, I feel like I would want that to be like a whole episode, and I felt it was like 10 minutes. It was like kind of one of those things where like this isn't like Pelia's like this is Pelia's episode, but it just felt like this is something that I want more explored because I feel like if this is now it's just squashed and like it felt like it could have been like a whole feast of drama. But like that's just
Sure.
that's just something.
I don't really think it needed a whole episode for it, but
Yeah.
like I think the problem with it is that it's the same beat she has with Uhura longer
Yeah.
with Una. It's essentially the same thing. Like, you have a problem because I remind you that Hemmer's gone. And like, you could have gone about it with, I like the scene. You could have gone about the way you did it with Uhura differently, just about her ignoring her, and have Pelia be carrying that feeling of being avoided because of that over to her thing with Una, where she can mention with Una that Uhura's doing it too. But it doesn't need to be an interaction there. Because I think like the only issue with it really is that ultimately when you get to the resolution scene with Una, it's also Pelia just being like, you're avoiding it, but like it's Hemmer and I get it. Like, and it's fine. I understand. I just want you to know that I understand that that's why. And I think it would have landed more if she hadn't done the same thing with Uhura at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
And it's because you're treading the same ground just with different characters. That being said, I like Carol Kane. So like I like all of her giving it to Rebecca Romaine. But like I really like Una's scene where she's having to just kind of sit in her feelings while Pelia is like, it's about Hemmer, and you feel like you failed to keep the team safe and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, this honestly probably would have landed better near the end of the episode where it is, had we not done the same beat with Uhura.
Yeah, that's totally.
And I like the Uhura one. I like the whole bit where Carol Kane's like, he was one of my best students.
I lied.
I just said that because he's dead. He was okay.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
But really also, like, I think that's a good joke. It's a great Carol Kane bit. Kind of a weird moment to put it in where Uhura is for the whole episode. That feels like something that could have come around, like, on the back end of it. Like, even if it had been her talking to both of them about it at the same time. Would have been better. Because it is exactly her saying the same thing and how they react to it and what she says to them. And that joke, like, lightening the mood about it so they can, like, embrace that they all liked him but move on at the end of the episode. And I think that's the only reason that it feels a little repetitious.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. It's not so much half-baked. It's just like we just had this moment with someone else already.
Because I think if you just tied it like more directly, that Pelia is going to connect Una and Uhura at a moment later in the episode, it'd be like, you're both doing this and it's fine. Like, you have your reasons, grief is hard. I get that you look at me and you think about him and I understand. And like, just opening up those feelings. But because that had to happen with both of them, it should have just happened at the same moment and towards the end, because that would have been part of the whole arc of resolution.
Yeah.
So I think that's
But that episode, so there's that's one of three kind of subplots that are moving in the back of this episode, which are paying off moments from prior episodes. One being the kiss from the previous episode, where we're seeing Spock and Chapel discuss where they are.
Super chess.
I don't even know if we can call that a subplot because it's just a single scene.
It's not a subplot, but that's really the only thing I can use, because
it's more like a
checkup,
an epilogue from the previous episode. Like, hey, we know we made them kiss last episode. We haven't forgotten, but this isn't about them. We're literally going to leave their table.
Here's one scene so y'all don't get mad.
And so like there's that, and then there's La'an and Kirk. And
that
so
is a subplot.
One of the things that I do actually really appreciate about Strange New Worlds this season that we noticed in the last episode with Una and La'an, the La'an specifically, is that there is development happening in the background. It's not like people stay stagnant until their episode. Things are happening, and so like when La'an and Kirk meet, we don't need a La'an and Kirk episode. That La'an sees Kirk for the first time. We see that look on her face, and we know exactly why she's dealing. She's got a lot of emotions, and Christina Chong plays it very well. So I find it very interesting, and I actually don't think it's. I actually think it's a good thing. It's positive. For what I'm saying is that those kind of three kind of things are moving along in the background of this episode that I think is pretty well balanced.
It's more of what we've talked about the show being most of the time pretty good at. We talked about it a lot with the previous episode around Spock, that it's just like, the characters are growing, even if they're growing in the instances where we see them come from the background, recede to the background, whatever. They're all still on their trajectory and their growth pattern from the previous stuff.
Yeah.
Just like being an episodic show while maintaining seriality narrative with your characters so that they're allowed to expand and grow. And yeah, this episode has a lot of it, and I think they do a good job with La'an and Kirk. And La'an is definitely dying before the show is over.
Ooh.
Yeah, before the show's over.
so?
But don't...
Now that she met Kirk,
Yeah, absolutely.
she doesn't come up when they face Khan.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Nah,
Yeah.
girl dead.
Yeah.
Girl be dead.
And like, because this is like a prequel show, they can't really have a super hardcore romance, because wouldn't when that movie happens know about the Noonians and or something, or be like, oh, I dated your great daughter or whatever it is. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't think we're gonna get a lot from them, unfortunately. But it could be a Spock and Chapel thing. I almost called it church. I swear to God, it was really hard. It could be one of those things where let's forget canon. Let's just have fun with it. So I hope that could happen, because I like their chemistry a lot, and I think everyone deserves a smooch every now and then.
Yeah, there is a sense that Spock and Uhura see Khan Noonien sing, and none of them are like, excuse me, Captain. I met this person's descendant. I served with them for 5 years.
Yeah.
So there could be once again bending the canon, we're going to connect to TOS, but it's not going to be a perfect connection.
I think more than anything, it's just the fact that the events of that movie can occur and La'an could exist in the world and not be involved. I could believe that if she didn't have such a relationship with the core members, which now, because of even Kirk being there, I'm like, well, if La'an was around, La'an would be there. So La'an's dead.
It's getting a little too, in a good way. It's getting a little too messy, where I'm like, oh, I think some sad stuff's gonna have to happen.
Which, I mean, do what you got to do, because embrace everything you can and do everything you want to with the character now, because you can't change the fact that she's not in that movie. So that's fine and everything. I just, there was we talked about it before, after the Kirk and La'an episode that we had before this season, where I suggested we might see her die for Kirk in this show. And that would be why she doesn't come up again. And I'm like, I guess if she never meets Kirk, there was a window where I could kind of buy her not being involved in the movie. But now that it's Kirk and Spock and Uhura and all of them being close to her, I'm like, no.
Yo, he said,
I really can't see the path anymore.
I didn't forget about that drink, girl. Let me get you a drink, girl.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and both the movie and Space Seed, which is the episode that introduces Khan, I can kind of see maybe the logic of there's just not, La'an's no longer on the Enterprise, and there's just not time to find her or contact her or something like that. Does
that all happen in a day or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. I've never seen it.
So Space Seed, it's been a while since I've seen Space Seed. I don't rewatch the original series as often as I should. But it's again, La'an's not on the Enterprise when Kirk is command. So I can kind of understand that maybe just they're so far out in deep space, they just can't have La'an be there. And the movie Wrath of Khan is pretty dire, and again, I can kind of running through both events in my head. I'm kind of I can kind of see a world where you can justify it now, having introduced this character of La'an Noonien Singh, to just be there's just not room in either of the episode narrative or the movie narrative to mention her. It's just, once again, that comes back to the bending canon thing.
It's just one of those things, to bring up another A Galaxy Far, Far Away. When they do subsequent stuff outside the movies that becomes so important, characters like Ahsoka, and they're not in episode 3 and stuff like that, where it's just it just happens 40 years after. There's nothing you can do about it. You got to just have fun while you can. So I think just rolling with it. I can't,
Actually, Ahsoka's a really good example because where was Ahsoka during episode 3? There's a whole 4-episode event on Clone Wars explaining where she was during. Maybe they'll do like a where was La'an during Wrath of Khan and Space
Yeah,
Siege?
that'd be really funny.
I think the bigger thing always is just like, and it like they've done such a good job integrating Ahsoka into Star Wars and all that, but like there's no version where I don't watch episode 3 and go like, or Anakin, call Ahsoka. Like, or Obi-Wan, call Ahsoka before you go to Mustafar. She could help right now.
Yeah.
I think that'd be useful. Like, there's no version where those things don't like enter your brain. And I guess you could be like, oh, Obi-Wan tried, but she was on Mandalore and she didn't get the call. And like, okay.
You got to do some serious mental digging.
Right.
But it's fine. It's okay.
But it's a very like, it's the same kind of thing of it's like, oh, Khan came up. Wow. Like I remember a character who like her whole bag was like being followed around by the Khan shit.
Didn't I make out with a Noonien Singh once?
Here's what they do. So they bring back short treks. And what they do is they make an episode that's set after Space Seed, and it's La'an and Kirk, and it's Paul Wesley and Christina Chong, and they're talking about the events of Space Seed, and Kirk's like, I don't know why I didn't recognize the name.
That's really,
yeah. You just do a short trek of La'an catching up with her post Wrath of Khan, doing whatever she's doing, and it's like, hey, this happened. And
that's crazy.
And she's like, oh shit, I wish I'd been there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That was fun.
Christina Chong and Paul Wesley continue to like kill it, and I think while we're still on this topic, I do want to highlight that I didn't expect there to be such a relevant scene on Kirk's end with her, but the bit where he talks about their dad, and she has that bit where she's like, as one of the people who was a random person helped by Starfleet, I can tell you that everything he did made a difference.
Yeah.
Like, and like, I was like, wow, it's actually like, that's an important moment at this moment in time for Kirk. Like that's really cool.
Yeah.
That they spotlighted something like that and let Paul Wesley like run with performing that scene. I thought that was really great.
Yeah, it kind of is a nice little arc that Kirk has where he's talking to Sam. That starts when he's talking to Sam about his about their dad George, Chris Hemsworth, if you guys don't remember.
I've heard of him.
I really like the kind of, I guess, chip on his shoulder that Sam has. I like this kind of dynamic that Sam is like, he doesn't go by George Kirk. He goes by Sam Kirk. He goes by his middle name. He's got his father's name, but he chooses not to use it. He's not in the command branch, so he's not going to become a captain. He's not going to become the youngest first officer. He's got a chip on his shoulder because, like, here's Jim Kirk doing all the things that our father did, and here I am, the disappointment in the xenoanthropology lab.
What I thought was better is even with like a small amount of time and dialogue for the scene, it's not so much about the fact that it's not just about the fact that Jim is doing better. It's that Jim is literally patterning himself after their dad, which Sam's like, God, like you just do the things that he did, and you don't like just that's all. Like to Sam, he's like, you can't imagine a
different life
outside of walking in Dad's footsteps. Yeah. And that's part of it too. It's not just how George looks at it. Like Sam is actively pursuing an alternate path. I don't think it's just jealousy. I think that's there for sure. That Sam would want to be in that position, but I don't know that it's just for their father's praise. It almost feels like they're hinting at the idea that Sam's kind of beyond that, but it might be about Jim's.
Yeah. Sam definitely seems to like love his job, and when Jim is like, so what's new in your field? And he's like, bro, everything is new in my field. I love this shit. And he's like, oh, but I'm not gonna give you the boring answer you don't actually care about. So like he's totally content with his life, I think. Yeah.
I think he is happy with his career. He was doing what he loves. He's on the he even says, I'm on the flagship. At the end when he has a sissy fit. He goes, but I think he does want his dad and Jim to acknowledge it.
Yes.
that he wants him to be like, why can't you get like, there's the kind of when I say chip on his shoulder, I mean like his dad is looking at Jim Kirk as like the clone of George Kirk. And
Right.
then there's Sam, and Sam wants him to be like, no, look at what I'm also doing. I'm doing my own path.
I'm my own man.
Well, and like
Yeah.
again, like they do a really good job with the little runway they have in this episode of, I think, leaving a lot of subtext on the table and everything about that. It is from both of them, but I still think that like the implication is that Jim is more important than their father in Sam's eyes.
Mhm.
And it is an acknowledgement of just what you said, like he's on the flagship. Like, acknowledge that while I am not a captain or a first officer, I am one of the leaders of my field. Like, I might not be in the same trajectory path of rank that Dad was, but I'm killing it at what I do. And if it's not what you did, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it feels like that's kind of the implication, because it is the thing of like, the science is really cool, but Jim, you don't care.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. As Jim is being promoted to first officer of the Farragut, which is kind of nice. There's a nice little okay, real quick lesson for you guys. Real quick rank lesson for you guys. No stripe on the shirt. Ensign, 1 stripe, 1 unbroken stripe. Lieutenant, 1. So Kirk has a lieutenant stripe in this episode. And he's talking about being promoted to first officer, and I was kind of like, that's interesting if he's a lieutenant. But he says he's going to get the promotion in a couple months. And generally, when you're first officer, you at least have to be promoted to a lieutenant commander. So I guess that's their way of saying like, oh, Jim is in a couple of months getting his promotion to lieutenant commander.
He's fast tracking.
And I kind of like that. I kind of like that that he didn't just show up and he's already a lieutenant commander.
Which is all the more. Sorry, finish your thought.
Well, I kind of lost it, so go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
It's all the more to what you're saying, even like, people who know the details like you do about that kind of thing, that like the implication there would be that he's jumping a rank.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if that's all the more reason for Sam to be jealous and critical and looking at how he's going on his path, and like that's the only thing that matters. There's definitely a call that's happened at some point between Sam and their dad that was like the dad only talking about what Jim was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you look at both of their ranks, and they're both lieutenants, Sam and Jim.
Right.
So right now they're on equal footing, but Jim is getting a promotion way before Sam is even up for a promotion, and Sam, admittedly, probably won't be up for a promotion. Probably doesn't even want it, because he's not even That's because he's in the science division, but Spock is the head of the science division, so he's under Spock. Piecing together the hierarchy of the Enterprise.
Of power?
Yeah. All the more to the point, I think they're just doing a really good job with a small amount of time and a small amount of dialogue. They make a real full relationship out of the Kirk brothers.
Yeah.
Oh, my overall point that I've been trying to cut, so I've been dancing around with until I can remember, is I hesitate to say this because I think I don't want Kirk. I don't want Jim Kirk in this show too much, because I don't think we need him. I think
then you're just making Star Trek.
You're just making Star Trek original series. Like, I just think you focus on the characters we have. Jim Kirk can show up for an episode or two, but he shouldn't become the focus. Now, saying that, I kind of would like just a dedicated Sam and Jim Kirk episode.
Sure.
I'd actually be really into that. It's something we've never had before, and could really do some really cool things. And I'm not saying like in my head I've clearly already written this episode. They're stranded on a planet, and Sam Kirk needs to use his xenoanthropology skills, and they're bickering, and then they come to terms with their relationships and their past and their paths.
I think if once a season you have an episode that's like this one, as far as like Kirk and Uhura, and that's about like Kirk and Uhura specifically, right? Yeah. Not Kirk with 3 different people in the episode, but just that relationship. And you have that, and then but the story is never about Jim, but that's how much Jim appears in the episode. You could have one of those every season. I don't think that'd be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And then an alternate Kirk episode.
I like that they didn't treat Jim like Jim's untouchable. Like that everybody else can be, played by new actors who are really capturing these performances and everything. And I'm really glad that I feel like they've eased the audience into it, but I feel like they've established that, like, Paul Wesley can play Kirk too. Like, we don't need to be off limits of Jim Kirk for some reason. And like, it is logical to have him appear in moments because of Sam, because of other things that they have incorporated into the show, that it's like, he's around, he's present in Starfleet. Like, there's no reason to ignore his presence.
Yeah. I wonder why Sam isn't more in the show more. I wonder if it's a contractual thing with the actor.
Maybe they just don't want to focus on him as much.
I think it's purely that they know how to juggle their cast pretty well, and they want to make sure they're doing justice to all the series regulars first.
Yeah.
And Sam is not a series regular.
Yeah.
And I think that's really all it is like, a lot of our series regulars spend a lot of time ending up background performers on certain episodes so that someone gets their spotlight. And I think that they do a very good job of giving them all a lot to do and giving them a lot of character growth. And so you can only put Sam in so much of the show, considering he's not a series regular.
It's true, but I wonder if there was an attempt to maybe make him one originally, because of the way they introduced him in the first episode. It does kind of seem like he would be more prevalent, being a personal friend of Captain Pike.
Sure.
But yeah, I'd like to see a Kirk brother episode. Quite honestly, if they want to write that.
I just want to know who the hell that guy is next to Ortega's. Who's that redheaded guy? No name guy, just flying next to Ortega's. We had 2 shots of him every episode. Who are you, sir? Who are you? Let me see. Just get a 1-shot camera. Who is the second pilot? Who are you?
It's really interesting that you say that, because there is a helmsman, a navigator. That's the navigation seat. Who ended up being a named character. And it's the other girl. Her name is Mitchell. So you say that, but I do not put it past them to ever give us a name for this person.
Yeah, this was a dude. This was a redheaded dude, and I'm like, sir, I don't know who you are. Are you on the right ship?
Ryan turned to me like the first shots of them showing up in this episode. It was like, this is who's dying this episode.
That's what I thought.
It was Ramon.
Because it's like, I know everybody on this ship, and I'm like, who's that guy? Who is that guy?
The body count for this show is actually pretty low considering its parent show, original series.
Oh,
sure.
Discovery.
I think that they've taken the criticism of that, and I think you're at an age where like deaths are more impactful when they're made to feel like they're singular and matter, and that even Ramon's death to some degree felt like, as we said, tragic because of the context that was built around it.
Yeah,
and like because that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
So like it does feel. When our captain or anyone else on the ship says like we also got the one that Ramon slashed, and he says like we lost 2 people. I feel that. I believe that Pike feels that, and I think that because it's not done so often, it lands.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I think that the original series, like the reason that running joke exists is because like back then they felt like the way to build stakes was to make you believe the main characters could die because they would have to kill someone who was standing next to them.
Yep.
And I just don't think we're there anymore in television.
Yeah.
It's interesting if you look at the trajectory of Star Trek, how you're saying where we're at now. The original series, the red shirt epidemic, where they had to kill the red shirts in order to create stakes. And then in the Next Generation, it was, well, the villain that we're fighting has to beat Worf because Worf is the strongest character on the show. And if he beats Worf, then that creates the stakes.
Sure.
Which ultimately just nerfed Worf more than anything.
Yeah. Everybody keeps saying that Worf's the strongest, but he gets stomped on every other week.
Anyway, I want to do a special shout out real quickly to Bannon Nebula. Which is the last name of Melissa Navios, I think is her name, who plays Eric Ortega's. It is the actress's husband who passed away prior to the filming of the season.
Oh.
And so they named the nebula after him.
Nice.
Damn, her husband died and they still couldn't give her own episode? That's so silly.
Yeah, right.
Man.
Scripts written.
But that's really nice. That's really nice that they did that. That's a really thoughtful thing.
Yeah, it's a sweet little like it's a nebula that's gonna give life and everything. I just thought that was sweet.
She's young, so I assume her husband was young.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the again the special effects in the show are great. They're really putting the money in.
The refueling sequence.
Yeah,
it is beautiful. It looks so good.
Yeah.
We have never seen the Bussard collectors on the Constitution class work, and I loved it so much.
They also, I love that they're like, yo, everyone evacuate. We're blowing the shit out of this thing. We're blowing
We're destroying this thing.
Up. Everybody, missiles out, fates, photons, go. Love it.
We are destroying this thing.
Blame me, Pike. Christopher Pike, it's me.
Literally, Ryan was like, boy, it's a good thing capitalism isn't a thing at this point, because man,
that's a lot of money.
Oh, holy shit.
Captain Pike has such a fun attitude because, like, it's the attitude that I talked to when Una came out as Illyrian, and he's just like, what are they going to do to me? I know where I end up. What are they going to do to me?
I'm still in Starfleet, bitch.
Yeah. Bro, look at this face. They can't do anything to me.
Get Starfleet on the phone. Tell them I am this bitch.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually quite like this episode. I have no more notes. I believe so.
I
can start wrapping up.
I have a few. I thought the visualization, just like the scene, we touched on it lightly, but like the Spock and Chapel scene is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The 3D chess and like the conversation about it.
Make a move.
The Spock wanting to logically immediately take this to Starfleet so that there could be no problems, and it's like, wow, it's like that gets like spicy real fast for me.
Spock immediately wants to go to HR.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I really like the special intro that they give to Kirk, like the real, like, the focus on the teleportation coming in. They're like, this is his first time on the Enterprise, y'all.
Yeah.
This is the first time it's real Kirk on the Enterprise. I thought that was fun. I thought it was cute. It worked.
I really like that he looks at the transporter room and he goes, a hell of a ship you got here.
Yeah.
Immediately impressed.
just the transporter room is just so. Yeah. How bad does the transporter room look on the Farragut for him to be like, oh shit?
2 of the pods don't even work.
Yeah, right.
I did want to spotlight. I really like Rebecca Romaine in the scene where she's trying to calm Ramon when they first find him in the engine area. That she's like trying to connect with him and be like, I'm real. I'm here.
Not hallucination.
I thought she was doing a really good job.
Yeah,
like just as a performer, I think like spotlight her when she's doing a good job.
I agree.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we talked a lot about a lot of other things that are spotlighted, but it can't be stressed enough that Uhura is killing it.
Yeah,
in this episode, I think her performance of the fear of death, in all its forms, and when she's talking about how afraid of death she is.
Oh yeah, the talk between Uhura and Kirk is really powerful. Like we're Starfleet, we face death every day.
Right, and like that, she's like in one form or another, I'm always afraid of death, and running away from it. And I thought that was really, really well written, but really, really, really well performed. I think she's crushing this episode.
And at the end, they're screaming and nobody can hear them, but I can hear them. Like, that's all really good. And then you got zombie hammer in the back, just going, yeah. I'm like, man, you look awesome.
And again, spotlighting Uhura's performance, the confidence and adamant emotional plea to Pike that they are killing them. Really good.
Yeah,
like
I really appreciate Pike just being like, "How sure are you?" Yeah. And when Uhura says, "I'm certain," and he goes, "Okay, evacuate the place. We're blowing this thing up."
Right. And important, this is Pike, so no one's surprised. But like that Pike, turns to her right after and he's like, this is my call.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my call.
I'm the bitch. It's me.
Because there is logically, there is a lot of evidence stacked against Uhura to make this not believable.
Yeah.
And I do feel like unless you're Kirk, who has been by her side through the whole thing, it's hard to buy that this is what's happening.
Who's that that shitty bald Vulcan? He would show up and going, Uhura, it's Uhura. And I'm like, it's me, Pike. No, me.
Yeah, it's important. It's important not to take for granted that what it is that Pike does have absolute faith in his people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he will stand by that. And because
They're all good.
It would be questionable to most captains. But Pike's like, no, all right, keeps do it.
Keeps the faith.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
It's a good episode.
I really like Uhura's log at the beginning of the episode.
Captain.
We've been talking about logs. They did a good job with Uhura's
logging it.
This is a good episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I actually ended up liking the episode a lot more after talking about it, which is fun.
Yeah. No. I like it a little bit more than I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like we pinpointed the only thing that really doesn't work is kind of following out on the Una and Pelia thing, and I do think it's just that needed to be connected to the same conversation happening with Uhura.
I just remember it kept popping up, and I'm like, I'd rather be somewhere else.
But it's weird because like you've already like I feel like it would have felt fresher if you hadn't done the Pelia and Uhura bit at the beginning of the episode.
I think you're right. Yes.
And then it'd be like this is something that keeps coming up, and Pelia is recognizing an absence of Hemmer, which again, like they did a really good job, I think, of finally coming around on like some emotional fallout from losing him at the end of the previous season.
I agree.
This is a hell of a cast. Like everyone is so good in this cast. Christina Chong kills it in this episode, and she has maybe like 3 scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Well, that'll do it.
Next episode is the crossover.
Next episode is the crossover.
Amazing.
The Lower Decks.
We watched episode 1 of Lower Decks, so we have some foundational knowledge.
Yep.
May I ask what you think of it?
Loved it.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Oh, very cool.
I knew it was like a mature show, but like the very opening scene where they slice his leg open and you see it, and I'm like, oh, this is where we're going. And I was immediately like, nice.
It was also very funny for us because like we watched it, and then not long after we watched this episode, and so you get to the initial start, the zombie Hemmer thing,
Yes.
and Ryan's like, yo,
because that first episode is like a zombie episode in Lower Decks, and I'm like, oh my god,
you're right.
Really? Yeah. So I was going, are we doing zombie stuff immediately?
I forgot about the first episode. I really like Lower Decks. I'm really glad to hear that you guys liked it. I'm sure you probably won't continue with it soon, but I hope that you will.
I want to, but there's just so many things to watch.
Ryan might. I probably won't until I've watched more Star Trek, just because it's something where I'd rather know the things that they're doing.
And it is like TNG adjacent, right? So like that's my up my alley.
But I'm glad we did it because I do feel like, cool, I know who these characters are. I have a foundation of good recognizing them and appreciating them as they are. So it's not just
it's Boimler and
Mariner.
And I think I have a good solid foundation of both those characters are from that first episode.
Yeah.
So like
yeah.
I agree.
So the next episode we're going to be discussing, as we've been talking about for the past couple of minutes, is going to be episode 7, which is titled "Those Old Scientists." TOS, Those Old Scientists. Kind of clever joke from Lower Decks. So that'll do it for this episode. This is Fichtner's Watch. There's plenty of other shows you can check out. We are recording this at a time where we don't know where we're going to be releasing it. So make sure by the time you're watching this, check out our website at fichtnerpodcast.com for updates on all of our shows that have been going on, that will continue on. But of course, you can check out the Fichtner Podcast. I actually probably shouldn't say that. I don't know when the strike is going to end. So the Fichtner Podcast is probably on, maybe not. We'll see. Sunday mornings.
We have shows here. You can figure out what's going on. There's definitely been comic books and video game coverage. By the time this is on, there's stuff.
I'm so curious when this is getting released. That's going to be hilarious.
The important thing that you should know is that on the Fichtner's Watch feed very soon, almost immediately for you, episode 7 will be up, and we'll be discussing the crossover episode there because it will have already been recorded. So like, go check that out, please. That'll definitely be there. So yeah.
Make sure to look for updates on the social medias at Fichtner Podcast, Fichtner Podcast everywhere. I guess it's not Twitter anymore, but in months in the future, it's X. So we'll see.
It's gonna be really funny. By enough time will pass, it'll just be Twitter again.
We'll see what happens there. But yeah, so all the social medias. I don't think he's going to do it. Fichtner Podcast on all the socials. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find me writing for CBR.com, AtomicGeekdom.com, and KaijuRamaMedia.com. That is unlikely to change in the near future. Sparkz?
You can find me potentially here in the year of our Nerddom 2024 at Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
Wow, yeah. There's the real possibility that this won't come out until next year. Ryan?
I'll do a little like hey, full disclosure, if you've like kept up with the podcast or you're catching up or whatever, like we've definitely like done some other stuff in the interim, but because of the strikes, like it's been put off for a long time to do the movies and television shows because we were in full support.
Yeah.
So by the time you're watching this, you should know this was the first thing we recorded after we made that decision. So we're very like, I don't know.
History in the making.
Ryan, where can people find you?
You can find me making history at DJ Tony Snark 616 everywhere.
All right, guys, until next time you see us, live long and prosper.